3 o'clock on a Wednesday. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you so much for being with us. Lots to get to on today's program. We're going to take a departure from what we typically do on the show and talk college football in the offseason. That's a rarity around here.
Can't say we've ever done that.
I mean, we try new things. It's like spinach when you're a kid. Beets. I still have nightmares about beets when I was a kid. When I think I was 6, maybe. My mom and my grandparents, I remember they kind of like, maybe taunting is the wrong word because that sounds mean. But in order to get like my first real like two-wheeler bike, I think I was 6. I don't know. I was little, 5 or 6, first grade. I don't like a good one, right? Well, you need to eat these beets. And like the canned beets with the vinegar and all that. Like if you want to take like a beet and peel it and roast it, like I'm good with that. Like just straight up, a little salt and pepper maybe. Mm-hmm. But that stuff in the can with the vinegar, I don't like those. That's
me a spinach, man. I can do leafy spinach all day.
I love spinach. Spinach, now kale stuff. These days, all that. But so we'll try new things today. And we kid, of course. We talk a lot of college football. But our very good friend Brad Crawford, 24/7 national college football writer, will join us. We'll get Brad's take on a local issue, and that is Shane Beamer's recent staff turnover with the Justin Stepp, James Coley situation. There's still a lot of you, and I get it, that feel like, well, why'd you let Justin go? And again, remember, they didn't. But, and I had one guy hit me, and where there's one, there's others. Well, see, if you had just kept Justin, then you wouldn't have had to worry about Coley. And I was like, well, no, I disagree with that because you absolutely upgraded. And the proof in your upgrade is that the current best program in America came calling for him. That tells you all you need to know about whether or not it was an upgrade. Now, you may not agree with the process, and that's fine. Again, I get that. I get it. I'm not here to tell you you're doing it wrong. I'm just saying I don't believe that the mindset from Carolina fans of, well, see, if you had just left Justin in place, this wouldn't have happened. I mean, that's technically true, but your head coach and his offensive coordinator saw the need for and then acted upon that need by getting an upgrade at the position. Again, Justin's a great dude. This isn't, again, unfortunately, it has to become in some way about Justin Stepp. And that's just a byproduct of the situation. But it's not the intent, right? And again, they kept him on staff. They wanted him to stay as a Gamecock football assistant.
Well, it's also, that's kind of Monday morning quarterbacking it too for those saying, oh, that's why you keep Justin, because if you knew that Coley was going to bounce after less than a month on the job to go to Georgia, if you knew that, you know what? You wouldn't hire him. Right. But you know what Shane Beamer doesn't have? A lens into the future. Yeah. And James Coley was available. It was an upgrade. If you didn't take it, I think you'd be a little more frustrated that if you feel like you could get an upgrade at a coaching position and you don't do it, that could be a little frustrating. That almost feels like neglect. But you don't have that scope into the future. And while Justin Stepp is beloved, and rightly so, and I think he's a fine coach, and I think he'll do fine at Illinois, you're not losing games because of a move like this.
Does Brett Bielema believe in the forward pass, though?
See, that's the thing. Now, while I think Justin will do a fine job at Illinois, I don't know if he's going to have a lot of fun at Illinois because he might be having to coach really hard for the 4 targets that all 6 or 7 of those guys on the roster will get. They're going to have to fight for those. They're going to have to really scrap, and they're going to have position meetings where it's going to be like, all right, Justin, we're going to have 5 passes against Wisconsin next Saturday. Right. Who are these passes going to?
Boy, a Wisconsin-Illinois game with the forward pass. Although I think maybe Wisconsin throws the ball a little bit more than they used to now.
Jim Sorgi ain't walking through that door.
Yeah.
They want to throw the ball more.
Yeah. I think Barry Alvarez wanted to throw the ball more. He just didn't want to throw the ball more.
Well, he saw his quarterbacks throw the ball more, and he was fearful of what he saw and the future of football that was in front of him.
The Woody Hayes-isms came back, with Coach Hayes believing that 3 things happen when you throw the football. 2 of them are bad.
And sometimes even the completions at Wisconsin are bad.
Yeah, so anyway, no, but in all seriousness, Brad will touch on that with us. Is the Southeastern Conference going to 9 football games? Kind Commissioner Sankey was here in Columbia the other day, and I don't think he danced around the topic, but certainly said that it's in discussion. For what it's worth, by the way, quick departure, this will not be a Brad Crawford discussion, but our good friend David Cloninger did ask Commissioner Sankey when he was here in Columbia Friday if the Southeastern Conference had discussed or would be planning on moving to 18 women's games and 20 men's games in conference play. They're at 16 and 18 currently. And he said they did discuss it and they will not.
Boo.
I wouldn't mind 20 conference games. That'd be fun.
Well, you know what? Like, now the conference is bigger.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to in order to accurately, crown a champion for your regular season, you should probably play everybody at least once. And if you don't do it, you don't have a true regular season champion, in my opinion. That's why I think the football ordeal is kind of tough.
They will play everybody, right? It's just there's going to be fewer home and homes. Is that the format?
Maybe.
And I wish baseball.
You're going to have X amount of home and homes regardless.
Yeah, I wish baseball had increased from say 10 to 11 series or something. I'd like that. But I know why they don't do it. It's the same reason that a lot of coaches don't want to go to 9 conference games, because somebody has to lose. And I get it. I do. But that's part of sports. And your television partners and your fans want inventory, and they want better inventory. I think, studies show. So, but we'll talk to Brad about some of those things. And there's also some national news in college football today. This week, there is a committee, and man, I read, I'll try to go to it again, but there was one committee that turned into another committee and blah, blah, whatever.
We love committees. There
are some people that run college football, or at least run a couple of committees, that are meeting this week. They're going to be discussing things like helmet communication, tablets, and they're also going to be discussing the potential of not 1, not 2, but 3 signing periods in college football. And apparently a subcommittee has recently come up with a discussion on this, and in which June, sometime in June, then the first Wednesday after the regular season, and then the one that's regular in February. You'll move up the in-season one, and you'll create one in the summer. Now, that hasn't been decided yet, but that's what's going to be discussed. And for a lot of kids and coaches, that June one could be something interesting. But we'll see what Brad says about those. He'll be joining us coming up at the bottom of the hour. Bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, the voice of the Gamecocks, Derek Scott, joins us live from College Station ahead of tonight's game with A&M. It's a big opportunity for both schools. A&M definitely needs it more. They've lost 4 in a row. And not only have they lost 4 in a row, I think they've lost 4 in a row by about an average of 15, 16, 17 points. They're in a real skid at this point. Yeah, they beat Tennessee in College Station, and they have not won since, including a humbling defeat in Knoxville the other day. So not only are they losing, they're reeling at this point in time. And if you're South Carolina, you don't want them to get back on track against you. Again, Carolina wins tonight. Really changes the dynamics of the Florida game. Florida has Mizzou tonight, who has not yet won a conference game, so you certainly expect Florida to win that one and get to their 10th conference victory. Carolina's sitting on 10 right now. Again, an 11th win tonight for the Gamecocks really places a lot more pressure on Florida on Saturday, but gives you a little bit of a cushion. But with the Gamecocks, listen, you got a bubble team tonight. You got a team that I think is now in Florida. Certainly Tennessee is in. And Mississippi State, when you go to Starkville, I don't know who they have in the interim, but what a hell of a game last night, man. Now, I say that in the sense that coming out of halftime, State was up, 13? I think
Kentucky ended up cutting it to single digits before the end of the half. So
okay.
It was a 9-point game.
But State opened up a little bit of a lead at the top of the second half, at least.
Yep, they smacked them out of the locker room.
And then Kentucky stormed all the way back. And for those of you who might have seen even just the last couple of minutes, a heck of a finish at the hump last night. I thought Kentucky was actually going to begin to run away with it, and State didn't let them.
Well, they got to that point, where it's Kentucky had an 8-point lead with 53 seconds left, and it got to desperation mode for Mississippi State. And by that, I mean give Josh Hubbard the ball and let him chuck up as many threes as his heart desires until that clock hits 0, because it's the only way you're getting back in it. He did, and he hit like 4 of them. He actually made a lot of threes in that last minute of the game and actually crawled them back into where they tied it with 8 seconds left. Reed Shepherd just hit a really good shot. That's a very tough shot for a freshman to make on the road against a defense like that. So
that kid's good.
That was a fun game.
And, you know, I told you a little bit earlier, and I'll say this to the audience real quick, and I don't want to put a blanket over it. And John Calipari's a fantastic coach. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's won titles. He's been to Final Fours. He recruits well, all that stuff. We get it. But I've heard before, and I just wonder, when you look at a kid like Shepherd last night, who's a legacy kid and is playing very well, has John Calipari in some way forsaken that kind of kid? And if you don't know, Reed Shepherd and his family, they really are. They're one of those, they're from a small town in Kentucky. I looked to see exactly where it is that he grew up. And you know, Kentucky is a very big state geographically. And while there are a lot of people, you know, in certain areas of Kentucky, really it's sort of concentrated in that like northwestern corner where Louisville, Frankfort, and Lexington all are. Other than that, there's a lot of farms and trees and mountains, and I'm not knocking it because everybody says Kentucky's beautiful. And I've been up there a couple of times. It is. But he's from a small town. But those kids, whether, again, his dad played there or not, there are so many kids that dream of playing for Kentucky, of winning of taking the kind of shot that kid took last night and winning for Kentucky. And I've heard people before, and I just say that Calipari has kind of just glossed over that kid that might be a 3-star talent-wise relative to the 5-star from Chicago or the Bronx or Dallas or wherever. Because John will go recruit whomever, you know, gets them from Canada, gets them from Europe from time to time. I get it. You want the very best players. I understand that. But there are roles for kids like that dream, and they will do anything you ask in order to have Big Blue go win. And maybe, I don't know if this is the kind of kid that can change his mind on getting more of them. I mean, just giving them a chance. You know, I know Kentucky people say, like, just give them a chance, coach. Get them on the team. See what they can do. Watch their work ethic. Watch their effort. Watch their passion relative to a kid who's like, man, I'm ready to get the hell out of here. And not because they don't like it.
So we go to the NBA.
They're just ready to get paid.
Yeah.
They don't have a dream all their lives since they were 3 years old in their backyard of winning for Kentucky.
Yeah, the only problem is that, you know, Kentucky as a state just doesn't produce as much high-end basketball talent that would be required to go to the University of Kentucky. The standard is just so much different there too. Like, you know, schools like Western Kentucky recruit in the state really well because they can maybe find some of those kids who'd be really good at a Conference USA level.
Right.
But really, since Reed Shepherd, you know, Kentucky hasn't gotten a kid from the state on scholarship since Dante Allen, and that was back in the 2019 recruiting class, and Dante Allen ended up transferring out.
Yeah, and I get it. I get it. You need, and like I say, I'm not saying you need to fill your roster with that kid, but you know, and Shepherd is a talent. Again, he's a legacy. He's got the genes. I get all that, but every once in a while, I feel like there's a role for a kid like that you might get a little bit more out of, and might have that little more want to give it to you. But anyway, good win for Kentucky last night. Elijah will give us more on how that affects South Carolina in the net rankings and beyond. All that for you coming up. Before we get out of here, real quick, poll question today. Kind of fun and a departure with the NFL already ending the All-Pro game and NBA players clearly having no interest in their All-Star game. Is now the time to simply drop every All-Star game in pro sports? Just 2 answers for you. Yep, it was fun while it lasted. No, give me the greats. Hit me up at jphillips1075, and we'll have some fun with that one throughout the course of the afternoon. Get into a few thoughts on the Combine, what the Gamecocks are doing up there. Yeah, they're all getting ready for Indy. So we'll have a little look at who's going to maybe make a name for themselves. And again, Brad Crawford talking more college football at the bottom of the hour. This is the Postgame Show. It's time to tell you about Pete Ale Wine Pool and Spa. Listen, March is right around the corner. Warm weather is basically here. I mean, look, right now, I got 75 degrees in Columbia on February the 28th. Y'all know what I'm getting at. It's always warm around here. And if you and your family have been dreaming of that backyard oasis, Pete Ale Wine Pool and Spa is ready to make it happen for you. They've been the leader in in-ground vinyl, fiberglass, and gunite swimming pool and design and installation for years. From start to finish, their team will be with you to make sure that backyard dream doesn't just become a reality, but stays a reality. Because, you see, they service pools. They keep them clean. They'll do equipment repairs and upgrades, make sure everything is running smoothly for you all year long. Check them out, 5541 Sunset Boulevard. You can even take a water sample in if you've already got a pool or once you get one. They'll test it for you, make sure all the chemicals are ready to go to keep things looking great. Sundance hot tubs as well. Check them out online, too, PeteAleWinePools.com. Like the two beverages, ale and wine. Pete Ale Wine, Pool and Spa. 20 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Wednesday. Jay and Elijah with you. It's the Postgame show. Again, coming up in just a little bit, our buddy Brad Crawford, 24/7 Sports National College Football writer, talking a little Gamecocks, little things going on around the SEC and the country. And tonight at 8, Carolina basketball, 8:30 tip-off from College Station. Derek Scott will join us at 4:30 to set the scene. And the EBPI has been working overtime to get you ready for this game, and the full Elijah basketball percentage index report coming at you around 5:15.
As always, accurately conjuring up numbers. Working overtime.
Before we get into a couple of things about the combine, who all's there, and at least our opinions on who maybe can have the best opportunity to advance themselves in the draft, let me revisit the poll question for you real quick here. With the NFL already ending the All-Pro game, they've gone to like a flag football game and skills competition. The NBA players clearly having no interest in their All-Star game. Is now time to simply drop every All-Star game in pro sports. Yep, it was fun while it lasted. No, give me the greats. Right now, 82% of you say it was fun while it lasted, but it's time to drop them. Interestingly, gotten a few hits. 2 out of 3 here. They're all about baseball. Joe, our buddy Joe Pollock, keep baseball. They actually play during that game, unlike basketball and football. I'll come back to you, Joe. Mike says not MLB, so he wants to keep the MLB All-Star game, so there's that one. But Jason says yes, including MLB, especially, he writes, after Atlanta got screwed, because Atlanta was supposed to have an All-Star game a few years ago. If you haven't heard, Jason, Atlanta has next summer's All-Star game, 2025. One of my kids already wants to go real bad. I'm like, well, you find a way. A, Braves fans get first crack at tickets. B, once they put them on the resale market.
Good luck.
Ooh, boy. And I tell you what I will not do. Sorry. I will not go sit in Atlanta in July and watch the home run derby the night before. I am not sitting there watching glorified batting practice, man. No, thank you. Not a chance, brother.
I think I'd do it. If I got to sit in the outfield and try to catch balls.
No.
That would be fun.
You know what? The only way I would do it, and again, this would be so expensive, those cool club seats in right field.
Yeah, where the Coors Light thing is. Yeah.
But, I mean, how much is that for home run derby? And Lord knows how much it would cost the following night when there's actually a game. I don't disagree with you, Joe. They actually play during that game. I mean, it's baseball. You have to play. You can't.
It's hard to mail that one.
Yeah, you can't dial it in when you play baseball because you get beamed in the head or whatever else. But the problem with the Major League Baseball All-Star Game is the stars come out, obviously, for the first couple of innings because they get voted in, and they want to be there, I think. And there's a party for them and all that. And, it's fun-ish. But by the third inning, they're ready to go. And then some dude you've never heard of, with all due respect, is the guy who's like on the mound and at the plate in the 9th inning. And I just
It ends up getting the MVP like we did this past year.
Yeah.
He was in the game only because he was the Colorado Rockies.
Right, and you got to have everybody's got a representative and all that. I mean, when I was a little kid, and I'm old now, I get it. I'm in my 50s. But like in the 80s especially, that's my heyday of like forming my baseball fandom, right? And it was cool because we didn't, I got the Braves and I got the Cubs. So I had 2 National League teams on cable. And I'm obviously, I say obviously for those of you who don't know me all that well, I'm a huge Atlanta Braves fan. Always have been and always will be. Dale Murphy remains my favorite baseball player of all time, and no one is ever going to eclipse that. So that's me, a product of the 80s. But we got the Saturday afternoon game, and every other week it'd be an American League game. So, if the Cardinals were playing the Reds on a Saturday afternoon, I probably wasn't going to tune in for any of that because I could see the Cardinals and the Reds when they play the Braves or the Cubs. But if the Red Sox were playing the Rangers, I was like, that was exotic.
I never see these guys play.
Like that. Wow, the Red Sox are on TV. Like Fred Lynn, Jim Rice, and South Carolina's own Jim Rice. And what a star he was. Like, that was fun. And they were in the All-Star game. Like, wow, cool. Fred Lynn, when he hit a grand slam in the All-Star game back in the 80s. Like, wow. a grand slam in the All-Star game. But now these guys are like, oh, all right, I'll play because you're paying me a bonus. But get me out of there, Skip. And again, I still remember Bud Selig, owner of former owner of the Brewers, but then the commissioner, like in the 11th or 12th inning, like 20 years ago.
When it was in Milwaukee.
Yeah. And they ran out of pitchers, and he I can still see him like holding his hands. I'm like, what do we do? Like, I don't know. A baseball game ended in your showcase game. And remember, for a few years, baseball, wink, wink, got it right by letting the winning league have home field advantage in the bleeping World Series. It was awful.
I remember the slogan, "This time it counts."
I couldn't believe it.
Maybe it shouldn't.
So Davis wants to weigh in on the All-Star game talk. Hey, Davis, good afternoon.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, man.
I've had as far as the All-Star games, I'll say football and basketball. I think because the format right now is not working because nobody really cares and they play. So I think the way that it would work is you get the rookie team and the second-year player team, make them play on the same team against the veterans. Because no vets want to lose to rookies, and all rookies think they can beat the veterans.
Yeah.
So I think if rookies and second-year players, get rid of the rookie game, the rookies and second-year players on the same team against the vets. And the same thing with football. Same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that would work.
That's interesting for the basketball part. Listen, with football, football's done with it. I don't disagree with you in theory, Davis. I think in practice you will not ever see a professional football all-star game again.
Nope.
And quite honestly, I don't know that you ever should have. Playing glorified exhibition tackle football is again, when somebody gets hurt in that game.
Former Bills punter Brian Moorman had his soul leave his body by way of Sean Taylor in an exhibition game, and it's like if that ended that dude's career, he would have had his career ended on a fake punt in a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, so now in basketball, I think one of the things they're talking about, I don't know that they're talking about the rookie and second year guys versus the vets. They are talking about America versus the internationals.
That also would be really fun.
And I think that has some level of intrigue, but let me just say this. Luka and the Joker and Giannis and now, Wembayama, there's still going to be dudes that are like, okay.
Mailing it in.
I'll go play. Just like KD or Steph or whoever else. So I like that the NBA wants to attempt to do something different. But if the only guy who's going to give a crap is like Pascal Siakam or something.
You've known he's existed for how many years now?
All right, because again, Pearson Fowler has made up a name one time. I was like, you're just making up sounds.
No, real player.
Yeah, he proved
he can play.
He's like, look, yeah. So hit me up if you have some thoughts on
thanks
this.
for your call, Davis.
But thanks for the call, Davis. Again, that's not a bad idea. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, rookie. Yeah. Oh yeah, old man.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I can. A little trash talk.
Yeah, that could conjure up some competitiveness.
One guy who never talks trash, he's just way too nice, is our good friend Brad Crawford, national college football analyst for 24/7 Sports. He'll join us on the other side of the break. What does he think of James Coley's departure from the Gamecocks staff as it relates to what Shane Beamer is trying to build? Will the SEC go to 9 games? We'll get into that and more with Brad as the postgame show continues. Time to talk a little off-season football with our good friend Brad Crawford, national college football analyst for 24/7 Sports. We always appreciate his time. The man is very busy getting a lot of stuff done. Good to have you, sir. And I did see one of your tweets about the old Jefferson Pilot television days. That brought back some memories. We'll try to get into that at some point with you here in the near future. But thank you as always. Let me start you, Brad, with what's going on with the Gamecocks right now. And a lot of fans upset about James Coley's departure for Georgia as wide receiver coach after Shane had shifted Justin Stepp over to tight ends. I know you tweeted out the ink wasn't even dry the other day. Give us your take on not only – I mean, look, Georgia wanted him. That says a lot about who James Coley is. But what do you think this means for South Carolina?
Jay, I think the Gamecocks are always going to be a program in the SEC that, since they're not that top 10, top 15 elite, they're always going to lose coaches to bigger jobs if that's part of the possibility. I mean, I credit Shane Beamer for getting a guy like Coley. He's an elite recruiter. He's been on several, national title type staffs in his career, and he had him for 6 weeks. But obviously, he feels Coley, that he has a better opportunity in Athens. He left, and I think this incoming hire, who I've been told is, Mike Fury, a former NFL wide receivers coach, I think it's going to be a good hire. I don't know if he's going to be able to recruit at a level Coley did, but to be honest with you, I think there's enough recruiters on South Carolina staff that they need a wide receiver coach who makes the production at the position on the field better in 2024 and beyond, and I think Mike Fury can do that.
When you look at the South Carolina outlook right now, whether this happens or not, you still got to go play football games this coming fall. Yeah. And I know you've been looking at this schedule, and as always, it's daunting. It's not as daunting, perhaps, as some of the schedules in the past with the non-con. Clemson, of course, excluded because of who they are, but it still feels like with LSU and Oklahoma and the rise of Missouri and things like that, that getting back to a bowl game is going to be difficult. What are you looking at? And if I may, too, what do you think of that early opportunity against LSU?
Yeah, my two big takeaways for this schedule this fall, Jay, is there's no Florida, Tennessee, or Georgia, which is strange. We both followed this program for decades, and to not see those three teams, any of the three, on the schedule is certainly going to take some getting used to. At least Clemson is on there at the end of the year, but October is going to be brutal. Probably the toughest October 3-game slate in college football. You have a top 10 Ole Miss team coming to Williams-Brice. You go to Alabama the following week. You go to Oklahoma after playing the Crimson Tide. So I think it's vital for Shane Beamer and this group to get some early confidence in September, and that's going to be easier said than done. After they open against Old Dominion, that Week 2 game against Kentucky, that might be the threshold whether South Carolina gets to bowl season or not, and that's only the second game of the year. So huge game there, and then, of course, the SEC home opener against LSU. And it's a new-look LSU, brand-new defensive staff, and there's no Jaden Daniels, reigning Heisman winner, to deal with either.
Brad, keeping it in the SEC here, Greg Sankey has said that the league is floating the idea of maybe moving up the early signing period about 2 weeks and then maybe establishing a dead period for the entire month of December. When you hear that, what are your initial thoughts? Is that something that you think could be pretty beneficial for college football?
I think it's funny, Sankey and all the powers that be believe that they're doing head coaches a favor by moving the signing period up to, I think it's December 4th is the date, which is, after the regular season, but right before conference championship weekend. I mean, all that does is, it might put coaches at home for holidays, maybe a couple more days, but it doesn't really help the bigger issue, and that's just how busy December has become for head coaches and assistants. The NCAA has proposed this week, they're talking about it now, that there could be 3 signing periods as early as next year, one starting at the end of June, which is crazy to me that you're talking about a rising senior in high school going ahead and signing his commit letter before he plays his senior year when, he could probably change positions, he could add weight, he could be a downgrade and upgrade. It's just it's crazy to me that, college football's powers can't figure out this recruiting schedule. I don't like the early signing period. I'd prefer them going back to February, but who knows if they're going to make any changes for good, because to be honest with you, the last few changes made in college football for the average fan, they're just thinking, man, this is not looking good right now.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make about the signing period. I'm kind of with you. The more I see this, I understand the logic behind wanting some multiple ones, and I get it. You know, a lot of coaches just want to get it out of the way, and so do a lot of the kids, Brad. But
sure,
maybe going back to the 1 February is actually the more efficient and better way to do it.
I think it is. And now that we have the early signing period, basically December 21st or so each year has become the new National Signing Day, Jay. You know, we look at February now, that first Wednesday is sort of, you know, what are these teams adding? 1 or 2 more players, guys that maybe slip through the cracks, or 1 or 2 top 10 guys that haven't announced yet. Basically, 95% of the 2024 class this past cycle signed in December. And I think if you have 3 different dates, you know, we're going to see a couple of kids who are locked in, ready to go sign in June. But for the most part, I think December is still going to be that signing-heavy time.
You think they're going to pass the helmet communication and tablet communication or usage this week as well? Have those become just secondary at this point? I mean, I'm trying to figure out who wants to hold that back.
I think we're going to have that next season, and we may have a 2-minute drill in college football. That a 2-minute warning, excuse me. That's been talked about as well, and something that they're going to vote on here in a couple of weeks. But that helmet thing is long overdue. You know, the NFL's had it a long time, and I don't know, maybe you'll see some better quarterback play in college football as a whole as a result of it.
I mean, yeah, NFL's had it for 30 years, and they've had the defenses doing it for 15 years. So, I mean, it's been a long time. A couple more minutes with our buddy Brad Crawford, national college football analyst for 24/7 Sports. Greg Sankey was here in Columbia the other day, and he hinted at least the discussions that are happening about 9 conference games for the SEC. We know that Texas AD Chris Del Conte said they had been discussing that. What more are you hearing on that? How much of this is about coaches that don't want it or do want it relative to ESPN/Disney not wanting to pay for it, Brad?
I think by 2026, without a doubt, we're going to see a 9-game SEC schedule. Now, that's only if we're not in a pod scenario. There are so many hypotheticals in play right now, and you just nailed it, man. ESPN and Disney is what controls future college football scheduling. It's not going to be the schools. It's going to be what ESPN and these TV contracts dictate and what they tell these schools and who to schedule. You know, we've heard various things from sources in recent weeks about possibly, you know, the SEC adding more teams, UNC and NC State being a possible package deal. I mean, there's a lot of things on the table. Florida State wanting to lead the ACC. That's the biggest domino. I think if the Seminoles can get out of that grant of rights in the next few months and lead the ACC maybe before the 2025, 2026 season, then that's the first school that really sets, you know, what the third mega expansion in play. And I think eventually, if I had to predict, maybe 3 to 5 years down the road, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to form these, you know, 2 super conferences. We're already going toward that route. And if you're not in one of those 2 leagues, you're probably going to be left in the dust.
Last one for me, Brad. I got about a minute and a half here for you. I did see where you had your way too early order of finish for the final record predictions for every SEC team in 2024. What might be the biggest surprise on that list that maybe not a lot of people have discussed?
Yeah, I've got Ole Miss as a number 3 team in the country. I know a lot of folks have them top 10. You know, some might not be sold on Lane Kiffin as a SEC championship contender. I think this roster is the best that Ole Miss has had in program history. Now, for me, they're going to have to get through some games in September that they're supposed to win, but since they're Ole Miss, they might lose. You know, I'm talking about Kentucky. South Carolina's a big game too on the road in October. So Ole Miss is a team that, on paper, I think they're almost as talented as Georgia and Texas. And you know, I think the SEC is probably going to get 4 teams in the expanded playoff, and the 4th team for me would be the winner of the LSU-Bama game. And my biggest surprise, I guess, is Bama is not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, distinct possibility, too.
And that'll go over very well in T-Town.
Yeah. Next time we talk to you, we'll get into 14 or 16 school playoff, because I think those things are coming very, very soon as well. And I do appreciate seeing the timeline and reminiscing about the old the Jefferson Pilot sports days of the the guy on his boat. Yeah, that was good stuff. He's Brad Crawford, B Crawford 247 to follow along on Twitter. Appreciate you as always, sir. Have a good one. We'll talk soon.
Thanks a lot, fellas.
You bet. Yeah, we're getting there. Now, the 9-game thing's going to happen. It's going to happen. You know, does it coincide with a 16-school playoff? Things like that, you know, where it's easier to stomach a loss. I think that's probably those things happen at the same time. I want to follow up on a few of the other things that Brad had to talk about. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Welcome back in. Postgame show continues on this Wednesday. Thanks, as always, to our good friend Brad Crawford, who is fantastic at his job. Maybe dropping a little potential info on Carolina's new wide receivers coach. Nothing official as of yet, obviously. We shall see. But, he's right. I think by 2026, we're going to see non-conference games. And even though we didn't get into it, I do think, and I've been saying this for a couple of years, honestly, we're going to have a 16-school playoff. And home field advantage is going to become something that you're playing for, at least in the opening round. I still don't, I don't want to bang this drum too hard right now, but I still don't like that the 6 bowl sites have to be included, the New Year's 6. Why? And people say it's tradition. Okay. There's a lot of, again, tradition used to be voting on the national champion. We don't do that anymore.
See, wouldn't it be more fun to have the MAC champion and the Sun Belt champion play in the Rose Bowl?
And that's
only slightly facetious here.
That's what the Rose Bowl doesn't want, right? But look, you can still have those games.
Mm-hmm.
I would just so much rather these games be played on campus. And again, if you want to rotate, here's what I would do. I'm not even kidding here, okay? Here's what I would do. Forget marketing your game or hawking it to, like, again, Santa Clara. They don't care about the college championship game. They don't care. It's a fine football town. They love the Niners, but they don't care. It just every 6 years, the championship game is played at one of those sites, and every other game is played on campus. And you can still incorporate it. And if they want to have their bowl game, all right, you don't get as an attractive matchup as you might like, but maybe because a kid is playing in your game and it does have some, mystique, maybe there's a couple of guys that stay in the game instead of opting out,
Because it might mean more to them at that point.
The way that Nick Saban got Will Anderson and Bryce Young to play in the Sugar Bowl 2 years ago.
Tickets were $35. That was awesome.
Yeah, I know you went. Yeah, you had fun. I don't know. But anyway, like I said, I don't want to go too far down there, but I think we are going to get to that. It's curious. Yeah, we'll have the helmet communication. We'll have tablets. Those things are easy. The 2-minute warning one, that's out there. Will they? I agree with Brad that we will get that. Unlike helmet communication and tablets, I do wonder, and he didn't say we would get it this year, but I do wonder if that they maybe table that one. They discuss the 2-minute warning, but they table it. But here's the thing. What good does tabling do? And what I mean is, what do you need more time to discuss? If you're a football person, you know what the 2-minute warning is. And if it affects certain late game strategy, okay, that isn't going to change because you've talked more about how it will. You already know how it will. You know what it is. I would think most coaches would be like, yes, please give me a free timeout at the end of each half. I don't know what, so you know what I'm saying? And honestly, Elijah, with the blending of coaching staffs these days being from the NFL game to the college game, those NFL dudes are like, yeah, here's how we handle it if you've never done it before in the NFL.
I just can't imagine it being that drastic of a change in the quality of the game. If anything, it makes your final part of the game more intriguing.
Uh-huh.
Adding that extra timeout, because there are some college football games where if a team has the ball, they're up, 5 points, let's say, and the other team only has, 2 timeouts, and the winning team has the ball with like 2:30. And giving that extra timeout makes the game a little more interesting. And obviously, this is for TV made type product. Hence the rapid progression of the college football playoff and all of the realignment that we've seen. It's a for TV product. This makes your product more interesting, and it makes several games that you'll see in the college football season maybe a little more intriguing in the final minutes. I've seen plenty of games where there's 2.5 minutes and team still has like 2 timeouts, or maybe a timeout, and you're basically saying, okay, this game is over, but there's still 2.5 minutes on the clock. It just prolongs the game.
I would go ahead and do it now. And again, I don't know, but my gut tells me that they'll do the helmet comms, they'll do the tablets, but table a 2-minute warning until next year. That's my gut.
I can see that.
That's my gut. That somebody will just say, "Well, I don't know yet how that's going to work." Yeah, you do. And if you don't, go watch the NFL.
I don't know how the helmet communication is going to work. We've never really
We've never really done that before.
Sir, have you heard of the National Football League?
Yeah. And again, the NFL has had the 2-minute warning. I told y'all since 1942. Did it because they literally had no clocks at the stadiums. So the ref on the field go 2 minutes because he kept the stopwatch. And they were like, "Oh, this works." And then TV said, "Yes, it does." Thank you very much. Talk to Derek Scott about tonight's big game in College Station in the next hour of the postgame show. But first, let me tell you about Pete Ale Wine Pool and Spa. Listen, again, beautiful day in the capital city today. Warm, nice. Those of you who have a pool are making your friends and neighbors jealous. Or if you're a really nice person that has a pool, you're inviting them over. Jump on in. Water's great. If you're ready to have a pool of your own, now is a great time to call Pete Ale Wine Pool and Spa. Vinyl, fiberglass, gunite pools, weekly cleaning maintenance if you've already got one, equipment repairs and upgrades, vinyl liner replacements. They sell Sundance hot tubs and swim spas. You can stop in and see a lot of what they do. Now, listen, they'll come to you when it comes to the pool in the backyard because, after all, they need to see what's up first, right? But you can go see their store. They're on 5541 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington, right across from the Walmart. You can even take in a water sample from your own pool. They'll test it out for you. Time for a new pool. Time to get yours cleaned up. See Pete Ale Wine Pool and Spa online, PeteAleWinePools.com. Like the two beverages, ale and wine, Pete Ale Wine Pool and Spa. Welcome back into the post-game show on this Wednesday. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Appreciate you being with us. Talked to Brad Crawford of 24/7 Sports last hour. That'll be up on the podcast page for you. Brad dropping some knowledge on Gamecock football, both the potential wide receiver coach replacement here at Carolina, now that James Coley has left for Georgia. Carolina's very daunting football schedule in 24, plus a few things going on around the conference and the country. And again, for those of you like me who are of a certain age, remembering the old, as residents of the Carolinas, the old Jefferson Pilot football and basketball days.
Man,
good times.
Those Kentucky Vanderbilt games on JP used to be a lot of fun.
Good times, man. Yeah, good times. Good times.
To hear Dave Neal's voice.
Listen, I'm old enough to be like Bob Neal. See, you're young, but Dave's dad, Bob. Or, like on basketball, the great Marty Brenneman, who I know you know from as a Cincinnati Reds fan. But Marty came down here, in the offseason and did ACC basketball. And old coach Bones McKinney.
Oh, classic.
Stuff like that.
Good crew for Jefferson Pilot. For a smaller, I guess, sports media venture.
Man, listen, they had a hell of an operation. And, again, for the longest time, I mean, even when Carolina left the ACC in 1971, but ACC basketball still dominated the airwaves in this state for a long time. And it took me a while. I've said this before. It took me a while to really get into SEC basketball, even after Carolina joined. Like, I couldn't just immediately, if there was a choice on a given Saturday or Sunday afternoon. I'm just going to be random here, so I'm not going to put like Kentucky or when Arkansas was in their heyday and when Carolina joined. But I'm going to say, like, if it was Mississippi State, Auburn, or Wake Forest, Maryland, there was 100 times out of 100.
You're watching.
I'm watching Wake Forest, Maryland in the 90s, And yes, Tim Duncan and Randolph Childress were there and things like that. I get it. But even if they weren't, is my point.
Well, it's amazing now that the ACC has gotten to the point where they only have like 3 teams comfortably in the NCAA tournament, and the coaches are now resorting to crying about the Big 12, what they believe is flubbing net rankings.
Yeah.
And it's, if you don't lose to bad teams in your non-conference schedule, you're not going to have bad net rankings. Brad Brownell.
Speaking of the Big 12, by the way, how about BYU last night? Wow.
BYU's good. Wow. They're a good basketball team.
And
the best offenses in the sport.
By the way, and it's the only reason I'm bringing this up real fast is because I'm seeing it on the highlight right now. And I know it was a half-court fling, beyond a half-court fling, but Cleveland last night winning.
Struce.
But Cleveland it has 38 wins, man.
Oh, they're good. They're one of the best teams in the East.
What happened?
Quietly.
I didn't know LeBron went back.
This is the best. Honestly, one of the better non-LeBron teams outside of maybe those early 90s teams that were really good, but this team's good, man.
LeBron is there, and Brad Daugherty's back.
Mark Price is back.
Mark Price is
Craig
shooting
Elo
from outside. Craig Elo's defending all over the place. They got a team, man. Kyrie even.
Daniel Gibson's back.
It's fantastic. And then you realize, nope.
Just kidding. It's Donovan Mitchell and Max Strus and Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
They have a fun young team. They're very young.
When I knew they were a good team. I hadn't looked at their record in a while, and I was like, wait a minute, they're 38-19. They're winning 2 out of every 3 games they play.
Yeah, they can play.
Cleveland. It's like the old lady in Major League. Here in Cleveland, I didn't know they still had a team. Yeah, we got uniforms and everything. It's great.
I think that's probably the sentiment with the Cavs in Cleveland for a while until these last 2 years.
So good for them and good for BYU. But anyway, but the old JP networks, man, football and basketball, good stuff. And the SEC had a lot of that too, obviously. But good stuff. Thanks to Brad for joining us. And again, that interview up on the podcast page at 1075thegame.com or on our app. And if you don't have our app, you should get it. Mm-hmm. Wherever you get apps.
And you can go back and listen to it pretty easily.
Look at that. One of the things we also brought up with Brad, Elijah asked him about the National Signing Days. If you have not yet heard, there is a committee meeting this week. Let me go back to it if I can find it here real quick, because our good friend Hale McGranahan also had a funny tweet about it. But Pete Thamel has this. Now, I'm gonna bore you with big words for a second, or at least lots of words. This is the NCAA's official release on what's happening. The Football Bowl and Championship Oversight Committees charged the football recruiting subgroup. And then it goes into who also on the committee. I'm not gonna do that.
I'm already asleep.
Yeah, I know. To basically develop a recruiting calendar with a recommendation on early national letter of intent concepts to be discussed by Conference Commissioners Association. See, a lot of associations and committees and subgroups. And so what's the difference in a subgroup and a subcommittee, by the way? I'd like to know that.
Mike Leach would tell you there is none. We love to have committees.
The 3-period model developed may allow prospective student athletes and institutions more flexible recruiting timelines based on the individual needs of the PSAs. Who are the PSAs again? I guess the prospective student athletes. Sorry. First, dumbass. Sorry, excuse my language. First NIL signing period, a 3 or 7 day calendar period beginning the last Wednesday in June. Second NLI signing period, a 3 or 7 calendar day period beginning the Wednesday following the last FBS regular season contest. 3, regular NLI signing period, the first Wednesday in February through April the 1st. Now, number 3 on that list is obviously the one that we all grew up with. Number 2 on that list, as Brad said, is the one that has now become number 3. And number 1 would be brand new. So, again, I'm confusing the heck out of you on purpose because this is what it is. I get it in theory. In practice, it's probably not even that difficult. And like Hale said, and Hale makes a point that others have. If you don't know who Hale McGranahan is, he covers football and recruiting primarily for the Big Spur. And he said, who's ready for high school football players to opt out of their senior seasons? NCAA football officials, apparently, if they think a June signing day is a good idea. I get his point. That's a little hyperbolic. Could be a couple. I don't know. But
a few of the ones that are playing at like IMG Academy. Sure.
Yeah. And I would wonder, honestly, Elijah, because I don't know enough about this. These are questions that I now want to ask because this is not and by the way, this has not been approved yet. This is what they're going to vote upon. I think it's going to pass, though. That's the feeling is this is going to pass. And this June, and coaches do want to move the December one from, a few days before Christmas up. And I get that. Then they want to do that for a variety of reasons. But let me just give a hypothetical here, and I want your take, okay? I am going to pretend that I am 4-star quarterback me, and you are head coach, and I'm going to you're at a contender, okay? You're the head coach at a contender. Hey, coach, I'm going to sign with you in June. I don't know how hard I'm going to play this season, though, because, I know I'm coming to you. You okay with that?
I would say do not sign, please.
That's what I'm saying. So, I just wonder what the conversations are like. I'm not saying that a kid keeps his foot on the gas any harder as a player or a coach keeps his foot on the gas any harder as a recruiter because you don't know. If a kid's committed to you, what? Let's try to be somewhat realistic here. 90% of those kids will hold their commitment, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
For our discussion?
That's a good estimate.
Okay. If you want to say 80, I don't know. The vast majority of kids that commit hold their commitment. We know that some don't. And far more often than not, it feels like the kids that don't hold their commitment to a college football program are probably some 5-star kid who's being dazzled by a lot of different shiny objects. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, is there a conversation from a coach to a kid? Son, I know you signed with us. And you've put pen to paper, so you are now one of our players. But I need you to go out there and bust your hump. I don't need you to, is there any of that? I don't know, and I'm not suggesting there would be. I'd like to know what those conversations would be like, because a kid may think, okay, I don't have to keep doing it. And maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I've also seen some kids. I think back to Jake Bentley getting out of high school early and coming to Carolina. It was probably a bad idea for Jake in the grand scheme, in a lot of people's opinions, that he probably needed that extra year of high school to continue working rather than trying to get to Carolina and there were some nice moments for him. And I'm not saying that another year of high school would have been the right thing for Jake Bentley to make him an even better college quarterback. But it peaked early and it slid pretty quickly downhill. I just wonder. I don't know. So I don't know. And again, not just a quarterback, whatever position. I don't care. Does a kid continue to work as hard at getting better in his senior football season? And I would think, again, most will. But is there a tendency for any of us in life sometimes maybe to just, dare I say, coast a little bit? And do you come into that college program the next season having worked as hard because, again, whether it's big state U that's a contender or small private school and whatever, and I don't care which level and who if you've done it, I'd like, are there benchmarks that college staff wants to see you hit once you've signed?
I think a commitment might be the same thing too, because a lot of the times when a player commits to a school, the scholarship is offered, and it's like a spoken, a verbal agreement to, hey, I will sign with you on National Signing Day. I think that those same type of things already exist with a lot of kids now. A lot of, especially in basketball, National Signing Day is before the season starts, or not before the season starts, but they can sign and then play the season ahead, and they be fine. And we don't see a lot of kids maybe opting out. I think football wouldn't be as much different.
Yeah.
And like the current situation we have now, a lot of kids commit before their senior year. And there's still that, I guess, maybe idea that they might coast because they've already made it. They've already have that agreement with a coach to go play at, Georgia or Alabama. You still got to be able to finish out your season to at least, leave a good impression on those coaches so you could actually, play maybe a little earlier when you get there and not have to think about transferring if you don't get the snaps you want in the first 2 years you're there.
And again, my opinion, and I'm far from alone, based on the people, like I said, I'm not going to bore you with all the people that were on this committee or the titles that they held or the things they do. And there were a couple of players that were on this committee as well, current college football players. I think when they come up with this, the reason they come up with it is because this is what they want you to vote yes to this. They're not saying, hey, that's a further debate. The debate has been had. They want you to vote on this. Now, again, whether it gets approved or not, I don't know. Real quick, I got time real fast. Let's get to John on the Love Chevy phone lines. Hey, John.
Hey.
What's up?
Good job about Bentley. So we have a signing date in February. That does not preclude somebody from starting school in January. Because they're bringing so many other people in the spring, so they get them another half a year for training before they get them into. So I think we just ought to do it either way, but no June, no December. If they want to get out of school early, let them get out of school early. That way they're playing as hard as they can that year.
Yeah.
And everybody else is playing until February.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. And, look, I remember I always talk about this. Eric Zier was the first one I can remember as a quarterback leaving high school and, after Christmas and getting to Georgia in January. But, yeah, you couldn't officially become a football player until February. He became a University of Georgia student. Now, there are some different things, and I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty. There are some different ways to go ahead and get in and be a player and all that kind of stuff before you sign a national letter of intent. And there's a lot of kids that don't want to sign an NLI anymore anyway because of how binding it is relative to some other things you could do. That's a whole other topic. Again, there must be something in here, and we'll read more about it in the coming days about what the benefits are of why they think 3 is better than 1 or 2. More is not always better. But again, I would like to have the conversation with, what benefit is there to the kid and school other than just, he's off the table. All right, let's go focus on these guys. And if that's what it is, then that's what it is. We'll talk more about that, get into, I did make a mistake, by the way, on my poll, and I just realized it, and somebody hit me about it. I'll explain that for you. We'll talk more about this. And Derek Scott coming up talking hoops. You're listening to the Postgame Show. AAA Heating and Air, this is the time. Now, listen, I told you all back in the fall as we got just some cold weather opportunities. Had you had your heating system checked out? Has it been a while? I might ask the same thing now of your air conditioner, because some of you, if you're like me, may want to have that air conditioner on today, because it's almost 80 degrees. If it's been a while, 803-677-1500. Call AAA Heating and Air. One of their techs will come out, give you a full service inspection, make sure that everything is good to go. If it's time for something brand new, Roy and Dana Finley have an amazing special for you. It's 12 months, no payments, no interest on a brand new system. You heard me right. Guaranteed financing options, plus a 15-year parts and labor guarantee. You can get a free estimate when you log on to callAAAtoday.com, or again, call them up, 803-677-1500. Do what I've done. Tell them Jay Phillips sent you. Stay comfortable with AAA Heating and Air. Twenty minutes after 4 o'clock on this Wednesday, Jay and Elijah with you. Welcome back into the postgame show. We are inside the beautifully appointed Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia. wherever you might be. Thank you for choosing to be with us. Derek Scott coming up in just a few. I have a poll question today, and I screwed up. I mean, the spirit of the question I didn't screw up on, and the answers that you can choose from are fine. And this is probably something subconscious, but Aaron hit me on Twitter just a little while ago. And Aaron, you're not wrong, buddy. It's cool. It's cool. Listen, if I do something wrong, call me out. I'm good. Aaron says, I'm nitpicking, but all-pro is very different from a Pro Bowl selection. And at first I was like, I get it. Because, all-pro, that's what they called them at the end of the season. But some all-pros didn't in the day go to the Pro Bowl. So I went to my poll question, and I realized that I said with the NFL already ending the all-pro game, and it is the Pro Bowl. I screwed up. And you are nitpicking, Aaron, and that's cool though. It was the Pro Bowl.
It's just so irrelevant now, that game is, to where we can call it the All-Pro game, and very few people would be able to pick up on it.
Ask me when I last thought the Pro Bowl or just the NFL's All-Star event in a generic way was ever relevant. Just ask me when you think.
When was the last time you thought it was ever relevant?
Never.
You know, it'd be really funny. I need to do this exercise now that it's kind of been conjured up, or at least the thought has. Go back this year. Look at the players who participated in the quote-unquote Pro Bowl and see how many were actual All-Pros.
Yeah. And
see a percentage of All-Pros played in the Pro Bowl.
And let me be, in all sincerity, let me be clear here. To the guys that earn All-Pro status, good for you. That matters.
That's the most important.
Yeah. Like an All-American in college sports. Or if you're an all-star, but, like the all-season team. I don't know what the NBA calls it. They have some
All-NBA.
Yeah, all-NBA team, it's different than an all-star.
That stuff matters.
Yeah.
That's how you base Hall of Fame careers.
And that's and look, those dudes get bonuses in their contract and all of that. So I'm here for that. But I did, Aaron. I screwed up. So I told him, and I just replied on Twitter, I will correct this on air, which I am now doing. And I put the facepalm guy emoji. That being said, with the NFL, and I'll just read it correctly, even though it's not the way it's been typed. So I can't edit it without just going back, and then all the people that have voted, they wouldn't count anymore. And I don't want to take away the votes and have to start this thing all over again. Because for one thing, it's not that big a deal.
It's not. This is not.
It's not. Yeah, we're not gonna. I mean, sadly, they're not gonna. They're not gonna go. Oh, that station in Columbia.
You know what? End of the Pro Bowl. No longer.
I mean, these are great sports fans that are answering this poll, which I'm very happy about. But yeah. Anyway, with the NFL already ending the Pro Bowl and NBA players clearly having no interest in their All-Star game, is now the time to simply drop every All-Star game in pro sports. A, yep, it was fun while it lasted. B, no, give me the greats. Now up to 82.3% of you. So the percentage is increasing since we last gave you some results. 82.3% say, yep, it was fun while it lasted.
I'm in the minority.
Yeah, tell me why. Seriously. I mean, I'm not no judgment.
Yeah. Because I take the All-Star game, any All-Star game, with a grain of salt. I'm not watching it to get my fill on fundamentally sound basketball, football, baseball, especially the basketball one. You know why I watched the All-Star game? I didn't watch it this year, but why I normally make it a point every year to watch it, because you know what? There's something fun about watching Damian Lillard pull up from half court and seeing if the ball goes in or not.
Sure.
There's something really fun about watching Giannis put his armpit in the rim. There's something really entertaining about watching these guys goof around, even if they are just goofing around. It's the same reason that during Halloween, I really like watching scary movies, even though not a single one that I watch is going to get nominated for an Oscar. Not a single one. No one watches Friday the 13th because of the well-developed plot and lack of plot holes. Nobody's watching Nightmare on Elm Street because, young Johnny Depp's going to win an Oscar for Best Supporting Role. No one's watching those because of that. They're not great movies, but it's cheap thrills and hot action.
Sure.
And sometimes I need a night of a sports version of cheap thrills and hot action, and that's exactly what these All-Star games are. NHL, NBA, MLB, it's fun. And I don't want them to tax themselves too much because you know what? I'm going to be really bummed if LeBron James tears an ACL going way too hard in an NBA All-Star game.
Yeah.
Lord knows if Kawhi Leonard falls funny or Anthony Davis falls funny in an All-Star game, you're not going to have them for the playoffs. So I don't get mad like a lot of people get mad when guys aren't going 100% in these All-Star games because it's just exhibitions. That's all it is.
There's a part of me, and I didn't watch this. I haven't paid much attention to the NBA All-Star game in the last few years. I used to pay more attention to it. And I used to love the slam dunk contest. I don't even like that as much anymore.
Those G Leaguers now.
But I told you earlier, and I've said this on air before and to my friends for a long time, the NBA All-Star game, to the point of in terms of the player attitude, the NBA All-Star game is the single greatest pickup game on planet Earth every year. You know, it's like, let's just show up and play. There's no structure. They don't even need refs. That'd make it better.
That's the easiest job in the world is being a ref in the NBA All-Star game.
You don't even need a ref.
That's a day off.
Like, let's not even ref. Right now, maybe to your point, maybe somebody does go into the lane a little too hard. Like on the playground, right? Or something like that. Or when you're playing at the Y on a Sunday afternoon and no refs, you're calling your own fouls. Yeah, exactly. And look, with baseball, to your point, it was fun when, I don't know, let's just say, Roger Clemens is pitching against Barry Bonds or something back in the day. And yes, I just threw two roid rage guys at you, but you see the point. They were big stars. And whoever you want to look at.
Torrey Hunter robbing Barry Bonds.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, things, stuff. Bo Jackson, man. When Bo Jackson hit that home run or like ran up on the, and caught that ball in the All-Star game. Or again, Fred Lynn hitting a grand slam back in the 80s. That was cool. Or when the Braves were terrible, but there was Dale Murphy representing the Atlanta Braves in the late 80s, right? Things like whatever. So if you're a fan, you want to see your guy, but they don't take it seriously anymore. So I would be more in the it was fun while it lasted. And it's because I can pretty much tell they really don't want to be there. And I think there was a time when they did. But I think now with free agency, just having roster movement be so frequent, baseball now, with interleague play and that mystique, as I mentioned earlier, of, American League versus National League. Like, it's just not there anymore. And like I say, for football, it's always been dumb, man.
It's unnecessary.
A tackle football exhibition.
It is completely unnecessary.
Again, and it's not, don't say like, well, they had those in August. That's different. You're trying to make the team then. These are the best players in the sport having a tackle football exhibition in Hawaii or now Orlando after the season. You don't need that.
Unnecessary.
So, but again, and it looks like although it's ticked down a little bit now, 81.6, but still better than 4 out of 5 of you think time for All-Star games to go away.
You know how I know your team that you cheer for in baseball has been really good the last few years? Because you don't get that adrenaline rush whenever your lone all-star in a game strikes out the side or whatever in the random 6th inning of an all-star game. That is exciting.
I was excited. Last week, the Braves had 4 starters, man.
See, and that's fun for the first few innings. But, when you're a fan of a bad team who has the one lone representative that's playing in the 7th or 8th inning and you strike out the side,
right?
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's the highlight of the year.
Now batting in the 9th inning for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Billy Johnson.
Which it made Jason Bay a National League All-Star legend because he's a staple
Billy's having
Pirate.
a great year, Bob. 276 hitter for the Bucks this year.
He's the only player anybody on the fan base can name.
T batting average is about 189 right now, but Billy Johnson's got it going on.
They're on pace for 30 wins, but a lot of laughs and a lot of smiles.
8 homers and 26 runs batted in. Even stole a base last week against Cincinnati. Of course, the pitcher dropped the ball.
Tried to steal third, but is overturned on replay review.
Derek Scott on the other side of the break. We'll get you ready with a lot of preview of Carolina at Texas A&M. This is the postgame show. Hey, are you a homeowner looking to make some improvements? Maybe a growing family, kids need extra space to play in, or you need extra space to get away from the kids? Or anything else. Your wife wants a new kitchen. Maybe you want a pool. Time to tap into your home's equity, and Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union is a great investment, financial opportunity for you right now. Read the script, Jay. As a local not-for-profit financial institution, Palmetto Citizens has been serving the financial needs of the Midlands for more than 85 years, and their home equity loans do offer a great low rate, no closing costs, no application fees, and it's a 10-year draw. So if there's things going on as your family and its needs change and grow, well, Palmetto Citizens is ready to help you out. I'm a customer, so is my wife. Apply today at palmettocitizens.org or any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Palmetto Citizens, achieve your potential.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start off in 5 points. An accident over at Saluda Avenue at Hardin Street is causing traffic to move pretty slowly through that part of town. Another one in Columbia. And Rabin Road at Farrow Road, that's recently been reported, as well as another one on Farrow Road near Highway 555, near Highway 277. Then outside the county in Lexington County, Longs Pond Road at Two Notch Road has experienced an accident causing some slight delay, as well as another one on Highway 1 over at Augusta Road at Ridgeway Road.
Time to talk some Carolina hoops. Another big road opportunity tonight in College Station. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. And as promised on the guest line, the voice of the Gamecocks, one Derek Scott, over in College Station right now. 8 o'clock airtime here in the East. 8:30 tip time from College Station. How are you, sir? And you've been over there a lot now, you and Casey. What's your favorite food in a place like College Station or Bryan, Texas?
Fuego.
Okay.
Fuego's my spot. I'm greatly disappointed that I've not had time to get to Fuego on this particular trip. And now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm in the rental car right now running over to print some of the stuff I need for my broadcast, and that may have just talked me into a...
You got time. Yeah, you got time. So go make it happen, man. Listen, treat yourself, Derek. That's what we say around here. Treat yourself. Texas A&M a few weeks ago was one of the talks of the country. They were in. They had beaten Tennessee in College Station, and since then they have just slid right downhill. What, as you look at their scouting report tonight and you give us your take on this, what are they not doing? Where does South Carolina make a real difference, especially as a ball club that's been playing quite well on the conference road?
They're not making shots. It's been their problem all season long. When they have pulled upsets, like that Tennessee game in particular, they have out of nowhere made shots. And in that game, their variance from their percentage, especially from three in that game, was so far beyond the pale that you just know Vol fans had to be just furious about it because they just were out of their mind. And they've basically not been at all this season. Their entire offense is geared on Wade Taylor getting fouled and everybody else just crashing the glass and trying to claim all of the missed shots. They are the best offensive rebounding team in the country, which is significant, but they are just about the worst shooting team in the country. It's been really a head-scratcher, I'm sure, for Buzz Williams with so many returners from last year's team, which was a really good team, beat South Carolina by 40. And it just hasn't worked for them this year.
Yeah, Derek, I want to ask you about the free throw thing part of it too. Texas A&M is just such a weird team, but they're second in the entire conference in terms of free throw rate on offense. But South Carolina has the best free throw rate defense in the conference per Ken Palm. What's kind of, I guess, the biggest key to be able to keep that number straight tonight against a team that, like you mentioned, likes to hunt for fouls because they are not very good at shooting near the field?
Right. Yeah, you got to show the officials your hands, man. I mean, you got to guard without fouling, and that a lot of times that's how it looks. If your hands are on the guy with the basketball, you can get some fouls that might be cheapies, but they're that aggressive. They're going to come right at you, especially that tandem they have of Wade Taylor and Boots Radford. Those two are so heavily responsible for all of their offense that you've got to find a way to be in position, basically. That's really what it comes down to. If you're in the good guarding position, you don't need your hands to slow them down. You can do it with sliding your feet and using your chest, and that's really going to be key because there are nights when that is really all they've got. And being at home, they could certainly surprise us all and shoot it better than they normally do, like they did against Tennessee and to some degree against Kentucky. But it's been rare for them to do so, and so that is really key, is to not allow them to turn this into a 2.5-hour game because it's a foul fest. Because they also do tend to foul a lot because they're so aggressive defensively in trying to steal the ball away from you. That's a big part of what they do as well.
Talking to Derek Scott, the voice of the Gamecocks. He and Judge Manning on the call at 8 o'clock tonight. Again, an 8:30 tip from College Station, Carolina at A&M. Staying on the conference road after the win over Oxford, Derek, and that was a big one. Take us through your perception of the body language. Really, Carolina didn't trail again after about 3 minutes of the game. And Elijah and I were talking a couple days ago. Felt like by 10 minutes to go first half, you could just sense that as long as nothing went haywire, Carolina was in full control, and they never really looked taxed. So with a week off, and we asked you that last week, how much did they need it? You felt they needed it a lot. Clearly there was a benefit, but what else did you see that they maybe were doing in ways that they didn't when Ole Miss came back against them and nearly won in Columbia, and with what LSU did in Columbia to come back after a big deficit and win the ball game?
It just, I guess you would say they just got back to playing smart, sharing the basketball, and that the way they guarded, man. I mean, they were ruthless in not allowing Ole Miss to have anything easy, and I think that's probably what was most telling, is they set the tone in that contest early on that you weren't going to get those clean looks that you got in Columbia against us, even in the mid-range, even if that meant that South Carolina got into earlier, a little bit of foul trouble early, that was going to come as a byproduct of guarding those guys much more closely. And that was the strategy they had going in, and they really worked it to perfection. They had a couple things go their way. I mean, Matthew Morrell getting those 2 early fouls. Basically, you played Ole Miss the first half without their leading scorer, Morrell, and most of the second half without their second leading scorer, Flanagan. So that was helpful. But the Gamecocks, give them credit. They seized that opportunity and made the most of it, and they played a good portion of the first half without Colin Murray-Boyle, so that evened out a little bit. But they did exactly what they needed to do at the defensive end of the floor. And Ole Miss's whole existence is tied into scoring. They're not going to beat you by getting into a stance and just making it hard on you. So if you make it hard for them to put the ball in the hoop, then you're going to be fine. And just like this team tonight, if you don't allow them a bunch of second chance opportunities, you're going to be fine. Tennessee destroyed them the other night because basically the offensive rebounding was very one-sided against A&M, and that's just so rare. And you know, that's something I'm not sure you can do on a regular basis, especially in their gym. But that's how they get their offense, and that's really if you can limit that. If you can keep guys like Anderson Garcia from becoming a factor, because that's all he really is there to do, then you've got a real good chance of getting another road win tonight.
Derek, one of my favorite things about this team, and I found out this stat by fiddling with Bart Torvik for a little bit, but South Carolina on the road is number 9 in the country in defensive efficiency in road games. What makes this team so good defensively on the road, considering that in the SEC there are a ton of hostile environments and teams that play really well at home?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just think that when you are good defensively, then as the phrase goes, defense travels. There's nothing about it that shouldn't be just as doable on the road as it is at home. And if you have consistent principles and you're not taking a lot of chances, you're not relying on another team being sloppy to be able to do the things you want to do, then there's no reason that shouldn't play on the road as well as it does at home, and it does, and that explains why this team has as good a road record in conference play as anybody in the league. I mean, they got a chance to get a 6th SEC road win tonight, and that's really significant. I mean, the road record and the home record are identical for this team in conference play, and that's not normal, especially right now in the way the college game is going. It's really hard for road teams to win, so to be able to do it consistently, that tells you that they're able to replicate what they do at home on the road, and it's not tied into momentum or anything else.
Got about a minute left. Were you surprised Alan Flanagan was not suspended further by the Southeastern Conference, and did you see that confrontation building before the elbow?
Need a stronger word than surprise. Shocked, stunned, outraged, really, really disappointed in the league. I mean, I don't know how else you interpret this other than they just are trying their best to get as many teams in the NCAA tournament as possible. How else you can defend him doing what he did and not receiving any more punishment than 17 minutes of the second half is beyond me. I did not see it building. I don't think it was building. I don't think Zach thought it was building. It was just a out-of-the-blue cheap shot, and, it was punished, but not to the degree that I think it should have been. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. What I said yesterday to Elijah and to the audience, Derek, no explanation from the Southeastern Conference as to how they came up with this decision. So that's the worst part. At least tell me whether I agree or not. At least give me your thought process. But we'll see. But a good opportunity tonight for Lamont Paris's team, and again, maybe a little cushion ahead of that Florida game. Derek and Judge Manning on the call at 8:00. Appreciate you, sir. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.
Okay, guys. Thanks.
That's Derek Scott, D. Scott Gamecocks, to follow along on Twitter. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of our second hour. Headlines of the day coming up for you. Again, an EBPI breakdown.
Always accurate, never factual.
Of tonight's Carolina A&M game. The EBPI is the Elijah Basketball Percentage Index. It's like the ESPN one, but different.
Yeah, it takes into account teams that have been cheeks lately, which is Texas A&M, which apparently the BPI somehow hasn't, because a 70+% chance of this A&M team is one of the worst shooting teams in college basketball, beating one of the best road defenses in college basketball. It's a little too confident.
What's crazy about that road stat, too, and I don't mean to rub salt in the wound, is that it includes a 40-point loss in Auburn and a 20 whatever. What was the margin in Bama?
It was a little over 20.
Yeah.
And it could have been 30.
That's what's weird, right?
Yeah, it is.
There's that. I mean, what would it be if you had just lost each of those games by 10?
Yeah, the remarkable thing is that, that just also shows how good the defensive performances were against Ole Miss and Tennessee. Because on KenPom, with their adjusted points per possession metric, they held both of those offenses, which are, top 20 offenses in college basketball, to 0.91 points per possession, which is just insane.
Have some fun with me here. This is off topic, but the NFLPA every year, that's the NFL Players Union, has an end-of-season vote by its membership on certain categories with each club. And it's like school grades. So you give them an A, an A-, a C+, whatever. The categories are treatment of families, food and cafeteria, nutritionist and dietitian, so those categories are separate, locker room, training staff, weight room. Those are the categories that NFL players vote upon, and the NFLPA takes all of that, and they come up with consensus grades, and they put them out at the end of the year. Only one team in the National Football League for the just completed season got straight A's. I want you to guess which team. So be thinking now. Okay. All of you. I want all of you to formulate in your mind, just based on whatever factors you think weigh into all of this. Only one team got straight A's. Which team is that? Give me a Elijah Campbell guess.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
No. Oh. And I'm not going to make you wait and say guess again and all that. I was surprised by this. You'd think, Dallas has a lot of money. It's not Dallas. Stan Kroenke's put a lot of money into that new Rams facility. It's not the Rams. The Miami Dolphins are the only team that got straight A's in Indiana. And now, listen, a couple of teams did really well. The Vikings had a couple of B's. Otherwise, they all got A's.
They're on the honor roll.
Houston did pretty well. Some A's and B's, a nice mix. Dallas actually had a D+ for training staff and a couple of B's and A's in there otherwise.
Come on, Jerry.
The Kansas City Chiefs, when all is weighted accordingly in terms of grades, 31st of 32. This is your two-time reigning Super Bowl champion having its own players say everything around our team sucks.
Except the whole winning the Super Bowl. Yeah. That part's fun.
They also did name Andy Reid the best coach in the NFL. So that was a player thing. And I guess other players can vote upon that as well. Kansas City got a D+ in treatment of families.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. A C- in food and cafeteria. An F in the nutritionist. F. Man, you need to get Bobby Flay or somebody in there to...
Maybe that's why Patrick Mahomes had the dad bod towards the end of the year.
Maybe.
I'm neglecting on a few things.
They got an F for locker room. Let's see, Kansas City...
Len Dawson's cigarette butts are still in there.
They got a D for training room, an F for training staff. Their best grade, not really, C+ for the weight room.
Even that's average.
And for what it is worth, their owner, young Clark Hunt, was voted the worst owner in the National Football League.
I would not have guessed that he would have been the worst one, which now leads me to really, really, really want a story from The Athletic to come out with anonymous sources talking about exactly why he sucks to work.
According to this report from Dan Graziano, Chiefs owner Clark Hunt ranked last out of 32 team owners based on what players perceived as a willingness, or I guess lack thereof, to invest in the team's facilities. The director of the NFLPA says this is not a shaming exercise. Lloyd Howell is his name. We want to highlight teams that are doing well, but also highlight areas for improvement. The best team in football is basically the worst franchise in football when it comes to treating its players well.
That's worth a shaming exercise.
I mean,
let's not kid ourselves.
There's some irony there, right? Like, just get to the middle of the pack, and what are you looking at? Headlines of the day. More previews of Carolina at A&M. Drive around the SEC coming at you.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. Start off in 5 Points. An accident has been recently reported over at Saluda Avenue over at Hardin Street. That's causing some traffic backup over here downtown. In Lexington County, an accident reported at Longs Pond Road at Two Notch Road. That one's causing some decent traffic delay over in Lexington County. And then two more accidents, one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road at Ridgeway Road, and one more over at Farrow Road near Highway 555 near Highway 277.
And welcome back in. It is the final hour of the postgame show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. It is time for the headlines of the day. We'll start here in Columbia with last night's 7-1 victory for Mark Kingston's baseball team. They beat Gardner-Webb. Another rain delay last night that sort of came out of nowhere. Carolina goes to 8-1. They were down for a while. They didn't finally score runs until the 5th. And I was actually pulling for a lot of you who were entered into the Palmetto Citizens Grand Slam giveaway here on the radio station, because there were, once Gardner-Webb's pitching kind of gave out, there were a lot of bases loaded opportunities, but no Grand Slam last night.
None.
Had a 3-run shot.
Ample opportunity.
Yeah, had a 3-run shot, but and that was a whew.
He sent it.
Yeah. But no Grand Slam last night. But again, you just need to keep tuning up those bats. And I don't want to say you faced a ton of adversity. Again, Gardner-Webb's starter was doing all right for a bit, and Carolina was just scuffling. But Coach Kingston last night called it a grind-it-out kind of victory.
Yeah, we had to grind that one out. I thought their pitchers did a really nice job of just using their stuff and keeping us off balance and throwing their off-speed pitches for strikes. So tip my cap to them, but I also think our pitching and defense was at a very high level tonight. Copper, Good, Dean, McCreary all were excellent, and how it might have been our best defensive outing of the year. So great to see. We continued to be disciplined. We had 10 walks tonight, and I think that's a big part of what led to the 7-run inning, and it's all we needed. So, good day.
Yeah, some walks, a couple of HBPs in there as well. And, the Gardner-Webb pitching yesterday, they were solid for a bit, but they were also, Mark's right, off-speed stuff. I mean, these guys were bringing it sometimes at like 81, 82, 83. And when it looks good and it's coming in slow like that, you could tell Carolina's timing was off. But eventually, it's pretty obvious, I suppose, that Coach Kingston and Coach Lee told the boys, hey, you don't need to swing at everything right away. Make them throw. Make them get you out. And ultimately, it started to pay some big dividends.
Make them hit the strike zone.
Yeah.
They walked 10 batters yesterday.
Yeah.
10.
Again, good first half of the game for Gardner-Webb, but the middle of the ball game, not so much. Mark was also asked in postgame yesterday how he feels about his team heading into the big weekend series with Clemson.
Well, obviously, it's a big weekend. It's going to be fun for a lot of people, fans, coaches, players, everybody involved. Right now, we're 8-1, and that's what I know about our team is we're winning most of the games we play. I think we're pitching at a very high level. I think our hitters are continuing to get better, and I think our defense is continuing to get better. So, look, we'll go out there and compete as hard as we can, just like they will, and we'll see what happens.
So there you go. Carolina and Clemson started off on Friday at 7 o'clock. At least we're scheduled for that. I don't want to try to, get anybody too nervous, but there is a better than 80% chance of rain in the capital city on Friday throughout the day. So I did ask earlier today if there had been any contingency plans made at this point in time. The answer was no. They'll probably start to, I'd imagine that Coach Kingston and Coach Bakich start talking tomorrow, depending on what the forecast looks like, Friday. So for now, everything's fine. 7 o'clock on Friday night, 4 o'clock over at Segra on Saturday. Be a little chilly, too, so be prepared for that, whether it rains or not. So bring a poncho and something warm.
It's not going to be ideal baseball weather.
Because if there's one thing I know about ponchos, they're not warm.
They don't add a lot of insulation.
No.
That's very true.
They make you sweat, which is not fun when it's cold.
No. When it's already cold and already wet.
Yeah. So, a poncho is helpful, but, anyway. But let's just keep your fingers crossed. See, I told them to build a dome, man.
With just a few pennies we got lying around.
Yeah.
Surely we can, fork it over.
Or again, just get some cranes and a really big tarp.
Isn't that basically what Tropicana Field is?
I think a few of them are, man. That's what the old Metrodome in Minneapolis was. It's just like a big parachute.
Enough to the point where it just took a lot of snow on the top of it for it to collapse.
Yeah. So, and you know what won't happen here? A lot of snow.
A lot of snow.
Yeah. Guaranteed, sir.
I have learned that lesson.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, that we will not see a lot of snow here.
You may get some. You will never get a lot.
Not to collapse the roof.
Yes, at least not for that. So, anyway. Some other headlines of the day for you. This is the right move here. Way to go, Kansas football. Yes. Lance Leipold has gotten a raise to more than $7 million per year.
Wow.
There's no New Year's. He'd already signed an extension in terms of years. They've just said, hey, we're gonna bump you up. He was making about $5 million last season. Again, this goes to more than $7 million. And this is a guy that was mentioned for a lot of gigs,
Rightfully so.
and still could be. It elevates him to the top 3 in average salary in the Big 12. He has now more than tripled his original salary when he got to Kansas. He's just 17-21, but 15-11 with 2 bowl wins, or 2 bowl appearances, in the last 2 seasons. Remember, he took over a team that was winless under a guy that won a national title. Well, it was Les Miles, but.
So kind of. He won a national title with 2 losses.
Yes.
So
thanks for that freshman class you left me that became seniors, Nick. You got it, Les.
You can credit that. Yeah. But if you coach at Kansas in football and beat Oklahoma, that should also not only make you the football coach for Kansas for a long time, you should get a key to the city.
Lance Leipold's contract also includes a $6 million assistant coaching pool, and that will go up at least $200,000 per year. It's also got a $2.9 million football staff allowance. So all your analysts and such, that will increase by at least $100,000 per year. The hope is that can help him retain big-time assistants like the guy who left for Penn State, Andy Kotelnicki, I think is how you say his last name. Thank you.
Nailed it.
The offensive coordinator. But that's a big deal, man. And in a conference, listen, as Texas and Oklahoma depart, and yeah, they're the best, this conference top to bottom, that's going to be your best football. I mean, here's the thing. Either that conference is going to be just lights out electric every week, or it's going to cannibalize itself so badly that they don't get anybody into the playoff other than their champion.
I think that's how it's going to go.
Probably.
You're going to have a 3-loss champion probably, and it's not going to be because I think the conference is bad. You just have a lot of solid, evenly matched football teams like Iowa State. And Kansas has programs.
Well, and Utah's coming in, and Colorado's coming in, and Baylor's good, and Texas Tech can be good from time. Houston's getting better.
UCF just got KJ Jefferson and Gus Malzahn's coaching. That's at least 8-4. Gus Malzahn's the king of 8-4.
Gundy is good. BYU is in this conference now. Don't forget that. I mean, it's a solid football league.
It can be a sneaky, silly league. I mean,
if Kansas by reputation is the worst team in the conference, and they are, and now they're doing this. Yeah. Who is the worst team next year? I don't know. I'm asking that somewhat rhetorically.
That's a really good question. But you know what's going to be really fun?
I guess Arizona State comes into that league, right?
Yeah.
So probably them.
Yeah, and they're still definitely in the rebuilding phase.
Yeah.
We'll see how long they stay there. And Arizona, I guess maybe by reputation.
Arizona had a good year, but their coach left for Washington, so they sort of are brand new. So maybe the 2 Arizonas are the ones that have the most work to do. But anyway, Kansas football, man. Way to go.
Hey, Kansas State could be for a conference title next year. That'd be kind of fun. And they're also 2 really good teams with really good coaches.
That would be something. Andrea Adelson of ESPN reporting that the ACC has filed a brief in court in Charlotte opposing Florida State's motion to dismiss or stay its case against the conference. This is the latest legal wrangling between these two. And as Elijah told me this morning, the gift that keeps on giving and the story that won't go away. The ACC says the case should play out in North Carolina, saying it's the appropriate venue for a dispute over a North Carolina contract. Florida State, meanwhile, basically is accusing the conference of rushing to the courthouse with this particular lawsuit. The ACC did file it once they heard FSU was gonna. The ACC, they did kind of run to the courthouse.
They beat you to it. Yeah. They knew you were going to.
They
did. You know what? You should have worked a little faster. They heard your AG start talking about it. Said, you know what? We'll beat you to it.
The ACC said in a statement yesterday, quote, "There is nothing improper about a party seeking to protect its rights by filing first." Listen, it's time to sit around one of those really big, nice, like, mahogany tables at some law office in Charlotte. Or if they want to meet in the middle, go in it to Atlanta. All right? And find some nice office downtown near the
like
Capitol.
a Waffle House.
Well, yeah, sure. If you want to rent out an entire Waffle House. Listen, if there's one thing Atlanta has plenty of that you could rent out for a day, it'd be a Waffle House.
Take your pick.
There are multiple exits in Atlanta where there's a Waffle House on one side of the street and one on the other. It's like, man, they like Waffle House in Atlanta. But it's a hometown, so why wouldn't you? I remember laughing at that as a kid. I was like, we were eating at one, and I remember looking over with my mom and cousins. We had gone to a Falcons game in Six Flags that weekend, and we were getting ready to leave. My cousins lived in Atlanta. And I remember looking across the street, and I was like, wait. It's like, are we in a Waffle House? Like, it was the craziest thing. And that was a long time ago. So, this is all about a settlement, ultimately. And it's time to start figuring it out. I still, if I'm the Southeastern Conference members, there's a difference in the Southeastern Conference, but it is the members. But I've asked you before, somewhat rhetorically, I realize. If I'm South Carolina, Florida, Auburn, Tennessee, maybe even. Again, I'll exclude Georgia and Bama because they are above you in terms of their prowess. Although Bama, even right now, like all of a sudden, right? Like, hey, son, Nick ain't there no more. Come down here and play for me. I'm Mike Norvell, and I know what I'm doing.
Ain't walking through that door.
Yeah. If I'm Georgia, I'm staying out of it because I've got to. Even though secretly Kirby doesn't want Florida State in the Southeastern Conference either. But those other schools that I mentioned, you don't want Florida State, and I don't think the conference needs Florida State. And now this is me editorializing here in an otherwise headline opportunity, but that's the story. Oh, well, FSU's just going to join the Southeastern Conference. I don't know, man.
It ain't that simple.
I don't know. If I'm FSU, maybe I want to go be the new Oklahoma in the Big 12.
You could.
Now, you still won't make a lot. You'll make less money.
And Brett Yormark's going to want to expand the Big 12's footprint.
Yeah.
Actually, no, they're already in Florida.
Well, they're in Florida, yeah. But
Central Florida.
Well, listen. But seriously, man. I mean, I like UCF. I do. I like what they're doing, and I applaud their efforts.
National champions.
That's right. But they're not Florida State.
Good point.
They're not Florida State. And it would take a lot of winning for them to ever be considered on the same plane as Florida State.
And more KJ Jeffersons.
So I just don't, still a good prize. But if I'm the SEC members, some of those anyways, I'm like, I don't want them in here. I'm already recruiting against them.
And if it don't make you any more money,
and it won't.
It wouldn't.
They won't.
Then what's the point of doing it?
No. Brad Crawford mentioned that earlier, by the way. North Carolina and NC State potentially as SEC members. Again, that makes a lot more sense. Used to be Virginia, and I think that state makes a lot of sense. But if there's a package deal, North Carolina and NC State into the Southeastern Conference, I'm here for that. I'm here for that.
I'm not. We have enough.
I agree.
We're going to get to a point where we're going to have a 9-game schedule. You're not even going to play half your league.
I'm with you.
Ridiculous.
I would love for 16 schools in the Southeastern Conference to play out for a bit.
I will get visibly sick. I might throw up on the soundboard if I got an alert right now. It said North Carolina and NC State in the SEC. I would be ill.
Yeah.
You have too many teams.
Well,
You're not elite.
Again, let it play out. Give it 5 or 6 years. Let's just see how it looks in every sport. It ain't just about football. I know it's mostly about football. I get that. I'm not naive. But there are other sports that the SEC takes very seriously. They're good at all of them. Feels like. So there's that. And finally, the United States men's national team announced yesterday that it will take on Brazil in a Copa America tune-up down in Orlando. It'll be mostly Brazil fans down there, I'm sure. And I bet you Brazil is getting one hell of a paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
nice.
nice.
They're going to receive a lot of that gate.
United States needs to be playing teams like with no qualifying for the World Cup in 2 years. You need to play these kinds of games. So that's good. And I'm looking forward to the Copa America as well. And, yeah, the game here against Liverpool versus United has sold out. So those are third-party prices you now see on Ticketmaster. That's the headlines of the day, brought to you by our great friends at Integrated Media. Get an outdoor system. Call them up, 803-948-8327. Enjoy the weather and your sports. Elijah's take on Carolina A&M coming up. 20 minutes after 5 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Final few days of February. It's a leap day tomorrow. Shouldn't we do something different tomorrow? I like leap days. There's a great Modern Family. We're like, do something different. And then it all goes completely haywire.
Come in a frog suit.
There's a Frasier doing the same thing where it just all goes completely wrong. Like, let's just do something. So the answer, I just answered my own question, didn't I?
I think you did.
Yeah.
But maybe things going wrong could actually end up being really funny.
Well, those are good episodes of both of those shows, which I like a lot. Now, before we get into the EBPI prognostications for tonight's game.
Always factual, never fiction.
In College Station, I'm going to turn it over to Elijah Campbell for a special announcement here. Many of you have been entering our giveaway, a chance to win tickets to Friday night's Carolina-Clemson game at Founders Park. I won't bore you with the details of how you had to do it because it doesn't matter now because we have a winner.
Too late. You can still enter now. I can just tell you you're not going to win. Yeah. But thank you for all who were able to subscribe to our YouTube channel and enter into this contest. Many entered, only one can win. And that winner is our man, Andy Bindewald. So congratulations, Andy. Give him a round of applause.
There you go. We don't have a golf clap sounder right now, but
not that's accessible. No, I did not have that pulled up.
Unfortunately,
we'll do you a solid, do the real thing. They actually clapped. So.
Andy, congrats, Andy. Again, thank you to all. And
sorry if I botched your name.
I think you got it right.
Andy Bindewald. Yeah,
that sounds right to me.
Hooked on phonics as a kid, and it's only done me a little good.
While we will not on tomorrow's program be giving away tickets to Friday night's Carolina-Clemson game, we will, on tomorrow's program, be giving away tickets to Saturday's Carolina-Clemson game, the Battle of Bull Street.
That's
over at Segra. It's a neutral field.
Love it. Quote unquote neutral field.
Yeah.
Air quotes on neutral field. Well, hey, the Clemson flag's over at is flying above the State House. So I guess, is it that neutral?
It's Clemson Day at the State House. I don't know. I should probably, but I don't know when the University of South Carolina Day is at the State House. They each have a day every year. My daughter works for a lobbying firm. One of my daughters works for a lobbying firm and texted, the Clemson Tiger is roaming the main lobby of the State House today. And I was like, yeah, it's Clemson Day.
And then you respond, tackle him.
Maybe.
Would be funny.
No, I didn't do that.
Would be funny.
I didn't do that. Hey, I'm nice to. I'm a good person. Again,
I'm nice to some mascots.
Tiger's just there, just hanging out, man. Lobbying.
He is. Can't say much. He's not very vocal.
A lot of,
but he is lobbying.
Like a mime.
Yeah, they're all mimes.
You know.
I've got a love-hate relationship with some mascots.
Sure.
But, the Clemson Tiger I haven't had any interactions with, so we'll see.
Yeah, I haven't either. And I've lived here longer than you. I can't recall ever really even being all that close to the Clemson Tiger. Maybe at a couple of basketball games. That's about it. Back in the day. But,
I will say the UAB Dragon's the worst.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not getting an invitation to the party.
Well, you didn't do like a little kid and go up and kick it or anything, did you?
No, it just for some reason decided to pick on me at the 2018 Conference USA basketball tournament.
Just you?
There's mascots everywhere. He would sit behind me. I'd get the little shoulder thing.
Yeah.
I'd look around and be somewhere else. For some reason, they picked me. I was picked on. So anytime I saw it,
it's probably just because you're really, really tall and it's just easier for them.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you are very tall.
Yeah, I was an easy target.
Yeah. Again, for those of you who don't know, Elijah's like 8'1".
Yeah, 8'2" in shoes.
In heels.
Yeah.
Or not heels, but sneakers.
8'3" in heels.
Oh, there you go. Speaking of sneakers, Carolina at A&M tonight. And, again, Elijah had a great stat. Carolina, top 10 in the country in road defensive efficiency, which includes massive road losses in the state of Alabama, which lets you know how good it's been for Carolina on the road pretty much every other time they go out.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, those are their only 2 road losses in conference play.
Yes. And in the Clemson game, they gave up just a hair above a point per possession, which obviously when you take into account adjusted metrics, Clemson's a really good opponent on the road. That bodes well for you. So 9th in the country, they're 6-3 in true road games overall. And their only non-conference road win was at East Carolina. So one tonight would be, like Derek said, win number 6, a road win number 6 in SEC play, which is just remarkable and a good add to an already really good NCAA tournament resume. But the EBPI for tonight, I think I had it at 57 yesterday?
Something like that. Yeah, because you started your conversation at 55.
Yeah.
And 3 minutes later, you had talked yourself into raising it 2 more percentage points.
Today, after watching some more games, going back and watching a little more, trying to watch for specific, situations in the Arkansas game and Tennessee game, and watching some of their home games, let's go 59. We'll go 59 a little bit. I genuinely think, for the same reasons I thought South Carolina had advantage on the road at Ole Miss, I think South Carolina is just a better basketball team than Ole Miss. I think I'll pick them to beat them at Ole Miss. I'll pick them to beat them here. I'll pick them to beat them in Tokyo if they were to play there, or at the State House, inside the State House on a Nerf hoop. I think I'm picking South Carolina. I think I'm doing the same thing for this Texas A&M team because Derek articulated it really well. This offense is predicated on 3 things. This is the 3 things that can happen. Like the bad things that can happen when you throw the football.
Yes.
That has scared Barry Alvarez into never actually throwing the football.
Yes.
For Texas A&M, there is Wade Taylor contested 3-point shot. Uh-huh. There is Wade Taylor get to the free throw line. There is missed Wade Taylor contested jumper or Tyrese Radford, depending on how froggy he's feeling, and offensive rebound and trying to put it back up and in. They are the best offensive rebounding team in the country by a lot. There's really not much of a close second. Houston's a pretty close second. But
boy, and Houston's really good. But are they the best because they miss so much? Yeah.
Well, they grab the highest percentage of their misses. Okay. So it does take out the amount of missed shots.
Okay.
So almost 43% of their missed shots they grab. They get a lot of second chance opportunities because those guards shoot a lot. Wade Taylor's top 100 in the country in usage rate. They shoot a lot. Here's the problem. They don't get a lot of second chance points because the guys getting the rebounds aren't very good scorers. Don't have very good touch at all. They're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in all basketball, ranked 360th in the country. And for 2-point shots, which are mostly what you get when you get offensive rebounds, right?
Yeah, putbacks.
They rank 302nd in the country. They only make 47% of their 2-point shots. And hilariously enough, on shots that Bart Torvik considers close twos, they only make 55% of their close twos. So when we talk about second chance points, it maybe not the second chance points you got to worry about as much as the third chance points. You can maybe give up a few offensive rebounds tonight and not lose the game. You can't give up third and fourth chance points, which is what A&M really relies on. And of course, the one thing they do as well, they don't turn the ball over a ton. They do a decent job at getting to the free throw line, but they're a 69% free throw shooting team too. So maybe if you do foul them a lot, they're not going to be able to convert on a lot of those opportunities. Thankfully for South Carolina, they're the number 1 team in the SEC in terms of opponent free throw rate.
Yeah, I was going to say, Carolina just, like we were talking about that Auburn game, Carolina shot 28 foul shots, and you and I did the math. We think that was about the combined number of foul shots Carolina took in the 3 previous games. Mm-hmm. Now, that's just for Carolina, but the same thing holds for their opponents. Yeah. There's not a lot of, go back to the LSU game for all of you who said, well, how could they be that late in the game? Well, that's how Carolina dictates the pace of play. It's not very physical. It's very methodical, and there just aren't a lot of fouls, so maybe expect some of that tonight. More on this game, couple of good cuts that we've got from Coach Buzz Williams, kind of scouting his own team and South Carolina. And again, a heck of a finish last night in Starkville. We'll tell you where things stand as we're getting into the home stretch of the conference regular season as the postgame show continues with a drive around the SEC.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A couple of accidents and road blockages to report to you that might be causing you some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll go ahead and start off in East Columbia. There's water main work over on Old Garners Ferry Road, both northbound and southbound, between Mill Creek Parkway and near Garners Ferry Road. Old Garners Ferry Road will be closed from Mill Creek Parkway to Old Hopkins Road for repairs. Also in Richland County, an accident's been reported at Faro Road near Highway 555 near Highway 277. Another accident on Hunt Club Road near O'Neill Court. That one recently been reported. And in Lexington County, we have an accident on Longs Pond Road at Two Notch Road that's causing some delay.
And it is Drive Around the SEC time on this Wednesday. Jay and Elijah with you. By the way, you just heard a commercial during the break, at least most of you might have, for Saturday's game at Segra, Carolina Clemson baseball. Based on what I'm looking at, and there is a possibility that I'm doing it wrong, but I don't think I am because I've bought tickets online before. Game's sold out. But we're giving away tickets tomorrow.
Sold out, and we have some. So that means these tickets are more valuable.
At least, again, based on what I'm looking at. I'm like trying to fool this thing into telling me there's some tickets somewhere else. And it tells me, how many tickets do you want? So I punched in 2, and it says no tickets found matching your criteria. All I want is tickets. I'm trying to find out some more. Can't do it. So it looks like it's pretty much done.
Which it sounds like to me.
Does not surprise me in the least. But if I'm wrong, maybe y'all can figure it out better than I can. I don't know. Time for a drive around the SEC now, brought to you by Herndon. We'll stay with Carolina and A&M. Want to hear a little bit from Coach Buzz Williams. They've lost 4 in a row. They beat Tennessee, about 2 weeks ago. And, on the 10th. It was 85-69 in College Station. Since then, a 1-point loss at Vanderbilt, a 25-point loss at Alabama, a 7-point home loss to Arkansas, who, by the way, I'll go ahead and just spoil some of the drive around, lost at home last night to Vanderbilt. And last Saturday, Tennessee got revenge on A&M, beating them by 35 points, 86-51. So that's the team, a 4-game losing streak that is coming in tonight. Cut 13 here on our sheet, please, Elijah. This is Coach Buzz Williams on A&M trying to get right.
I think what I've tried to do is just try to help our team understand when we were good and why we were good, and when we haven't been good and why we haven't been good. And then I think our staff's done a really good job on educating our team on what the opponent does well, what we need to be prepared for, and then how that correlates relative to the recipe that we know we have to follow. Whatever it was, 16 or 17 days ago, we beat Tennessee here, and in many respects, that was one of our better wins throughout the season. And then since then, we haven't played well. We've changed some plays, we've changed some players, we've changed some minutes, we've changed some things defensively. But I do think that our guys have been very responsive and very resilient in regards to understanding and accepting what we have to do, and we'll continue to try really hard. The team we play tomorrow is the most improved team in Power 5. Coach has done an incredible job. Their transfers have had an enormous impact on their team. They have the freshman of the year in the league, the kid from South Carolina. He's really, really good. But they play a very distinct style. They're slower than Virginia. They're almost kind of Virginia in the SEC. They're slower than Vanderbilt in regards to pace of play. Very, very skilled on the perimeter, but also they beat you up at the rim. And so knowing what we know about South Carolina, how can we negate hopefully some of that? And then how can we be the best at what we need to be the best at in order to get back to that?
It's an interesting challenge tonight because you can tell. And listen, I think A&M now, I mean, they're sitting on 15 wins and 6-8 in conference play. Elijah, do they need? You know, you and I can both just sit here and give an opinion, but it feels like they may need to win out to get back in the tournament discussion. I mean, maybe they've got a pretty good strength of schedule, so I don't know, but
and like they do have the amount of quad one wins necessary. Like if you just looked at Texas A&M's resume, excluding some loss years, I was going to give you the record in the first two quadrants. 6-6 in quadrant one, 6 quad one wins.
Yeah.
That is almost
12 total games. That's good. That's good.
That gets a lot of teams in the NCAA tournament. 2-2 in quad two games, whatever. 8-8 in the first two quadrants. They have 4 true road wins. They have the 10th rated strength of schedule. Net rating is not great, but it's usually adequate for teams that are at larges. But they have 4 quad 3 losses. 4.
Yeah.
That negates a lot of the good stuff you do in the first two quadrants. They've lost 4 recently. The Vanderbilt loss is an absolute stain on the resume.
You know, this is a lot like what we saw with some of Frank Martin's teams, where you had a couple of Frank's teams had 10 and 11 win conference seasons. You know, and you stole a couple here and there, but it was those quad 3s that are like, and what do you and I keep saying, and what we talk about, you know, don't give a committee something to use against you because they will.
Yep.
You know, and when you talk about bubble teams, there's, I'm just throwing out a number, there's 12 teams for 4 slots. 8 of you are going to be disappointed, and all 12 of you may feel worthy, and you might not be wrong.
Mm-hmm. And this is squarely on. As of now, Lenardi has them as the first team out of the tournament, which is astonishing to think that a 6 quad 1 win team is out of the tournament. But that's how bad a lot of the recency has been for them. And this South Carolina game is not even a quad 1 win for them. It's a quad 2 because of South
Carolina's net,
in net. So I mean, it's a quad 2 game. A loss here puts them under 500 in the second quadrant. They got to go at Georgia, which isn't a total gimme because Georgia, we've seen at their best, can beat some teams.
Right.
That game is a quad 2 game because of Georgia's net ranking. And then they're home against Mississippi State, which is really that and at Ole Miss at the end of the year are their last 2 quad 1 opportunities.
They need this one at home.
There's a really good chance they go 1-3 in this stretch.
Yeah, they need this one tonight. And again, for South Carolina, a chance to give yourself a little bit of cushion before Florida comes to town with the expectation that Florida wins their game tonight against Missouri. Last night in the SEC, Kentucky in a thriller. It's nice, by the way, that Buzz Williams says that Colin Murray-Boyles, that's who he was talking about, is the freshman of the year. Reed Sheppard and Kentucky may have something to say about that, but Sheppard was brilliant last night, 35 minutes off the bench, but just ice water last night, but a heck of a finish in Starkville. I urge you actually to go look at the highlights if you haven't seen how this game ended. I don't know if I can do it justice.
The last 90 seconds.
Yeah, it was fun. State had an 8-point lead, built it up. Kentucky then built itself a nice lead as well. State tied it late, and Sheppard just drove the lane late and bang at the buzzer. Little teardrop.
Got a good shooter's bounce.
Yeah.
So Kentucky was up 8 points with 55 seconds.
That's crazy,
left.
Man. State, again, State coming back like that.
Josh Hubbard came back like that. That man was magical in that last minute.
LSU edged Georgia last night, 67-66, and as I mentioned to you, Vanderbilt went on the road and beat Arkansas. Those last 2 games I just told you about don't have a whole lot of meaning when it comes to the postseason. Missouri at Florida tonight. The Gators heavy favorites. And then 2 really good games tonight as well. In addition to Carolina at A&M, Auburn is at Tennessee, and Alabama is at Mississippi. These are good games tonight. Mississippi needs that one so bad.
Mm-hmm. Auburn, Tennessee is going to be that's blockbuster.
Yeah, that's right big
there.
time.
That is a blockbuster matchup.
You'll have time to catch that one at 7 and then tune in maybe a little bit late for some of you that want to watch the Carolina game, or just watch it on your app. But that should be a good one, man. That should be a good one, and that's proceeding. That's a gift. If Auburn wins that one.
If Auburn wins it, they tie Tennessee at 11. They'll both be 11-4. Alabama's 11-3, and if some say Ole Miss upsets them, then that's a 3-way tie at the top of the conference at 11-4. And if South Carolina wins, then that is a 4-way tie at the top of the conference.
The BPI gives Alabama about an 84% chance tonight. Does the EBPI agree?
The EBPI is more like a 73.
Oh, wow.
I feel good about it, but
okay.
Ole Miss is desperate, and Ole Miss has some offensive capabilities that maybe other teams in this conference don't have.
Go out and throw some elbows and see what happens.
Alabama's pretty bad defensively. You might not have to throw an elbow to get some separation against that defense.
I was going to say just Galooly him, but you just Flanagan him. Use his name.
And if you do it at a certain point in the second half, you won't get suspended.
We have a poll question out there about All-Star games. We'll get you some updated results as the post-game show continues. 11 minutes in front of 6 o'clock here on a Wednesday. We just had a little power flicker, and after the events of yesterday...
We have one more segment, please. Hold on. Lights for one more segment, please.
Something going on I don't know about.
Are all the bills being paid?
That's above my pay grade, man. So, sure. As far as you know?
I think the backup might have kicked on. I'm hearing beeps. Getting a little weird in here.
Yeah, I don't need that. And again, I point out, what was the guy's name? I forgot his name. Aaron earlier corrected me. He was right, too. I'm not picking on him. I got my poll question kind of wrong. I call it the All-Pro game. I don't know why I did that, by the way. I do know why, because it's such a meaningless game that it doesn't matter.
Well, maybe it's like a Freudian slip because you would rather have the All-Pros playing in that game. And I'm about willing to bet, as an educated guess, that the number of players on the All-Pro team, a very small number, actually participates in the Pro Bowl. You know why I say that? Because last year, Tyler Huntley, a backup quarterback, played in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, that's a good point. But anyway, so I'll word it correctly the way I'm supposed to. With the NFL already ending the Pro Bowl game, I typed in All-Pro game. I don't know why.
Shame.
But with the NFL already ending the Pro Bowl game and NBA players clearly having no interest in their All-Star game based on last week, is now time to simply drop every All-Star game in pro sports. I can't tell you a lot, by the way, before I give you some results, about the NHL All-Star. I've watched it a couple of times, and I know that game usually is like 6-5 or something.
And they're usually 3 different games. There are 3 sets of.
And they have skills competitions and stuff too. And see, those things are kind of fun.
The NHL All-Star game is very underrated.
Yeah.
I know this isn't a big hockey market, but if you are a hockey fan, that is always a really fun way to spend a Saturday afternoon because they don't put it late at night. It's usually a midday event. It's a lot of fun.
Well, it's because Canadians like to go drinking.
That's right. Tim Hortons in the morning.
Right.
The hard stuff at night after the NHL All-Star game.
And then, again, look, the football game's been, it should never be played, but it was. Now it's flag football and, throwing passes through tires. Baseball, we had somebody hit us and say, at least they play. Yes, well, because in baseball, you have to play baseball. I mean, when a ball is coming at you, they're still throwing 90 miles an hour. So when it's coming at you, or a batted ball is coming at you at 90 miles an hour, you do need to be prepared for it. You can't just go, hey, what's up?
By nature, it's hard to mail in.
Yeah. So, but again, by the 3rd or 4th inning, every voted in starter is pretty much out of the game and ready to get the heck out of Dodge and go to whatever hotel bar or wherever club in whatever town. And I don't blame them. I get it. It's sort of a little mini vacation. And some of their teammates aren't there going, ha, 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 sucker.
Cancun on 3.
But I have 2 answers for you. Yep, it's time to get rid of them. Yep, fun while it lasted. Or no. Give me the greats. Right now, 81. So it's ticked down a little bit, but still very heavy one way or another. 81.6% say, yeah, time to end it. Fun while it lasted. With 18.4% saying, give me the greats. And you were in the latter. You would like to continue with All-Star games. I can't vote on my own poll. If I could, I've admitted, as much as I absolutely loved the baseball All-Star game growing up, it's time to move on. The baseball's All-Star game was ruined for me, and I mentioned this earlier, when Bud Selig, and it was Bud Selig, he might have had others that, voted on it. But when they decided to have home field advantage go to the winner of the All-Star game to make the All-Star game meaningful, and players were like, that was the death knell for me, because it just proved they didn't care. And I heard somebody say recently enough, again, why would a guy on the Pirates when they were really bad then, or the Royals or the Mariners or something, like that guy doesn't care if the Yankees or the Braves or the Giants or the Dodgers get home field. That guy doesn't care because he's not going to the World Series.
Nope.
Like you said, Cancun on 3. Yeah, that's where he'll be. He doesn't care.
Hit him with the old Nick Van Exel.
Hey, do it for the American League.
No one has league or conference pride.
I mean, they did. There was a time, to be fair, there was a time when they did. And like I say, that's when that game mattered. the late, great Tommy Moody used to tell me, but when he was growing up, and he's of a different generation than me, the starters played the game. Yeah, now you might change pitchers.
Right.
But I mean, whoever started at first ended the game at first, and so on and so forth. And guys on the bench did that. So it's time. I like them. I get the point. I know they make some money.
Jay Phillips, anti-fun.
I am. But it's just time. Especially with expanded playoffs when you get real stuff you want to see. That's where we are with it. You can keep voting. We'll have some more details on that tomorrow.
Vote pro fun.
Have fun tonight. Again, 8 o'clock airtime, 8:30 tip time. Gamecocks at A&M. Full recap tomorrow. Thanks to Brad Crawford for being with us and Derek Scott. See y'all tomorrow.